Hi folks, so one of my favourite topics in many of my videos is to remind people that weapons, be it swords or bayonets or guns or poleaxes or maces, are not magical devices like a sort of Hollywood gun or a Hollywood lightsaber that just kills an opponent immediately. Yes, sometimes people did just die immediately from a wound, and we know this of course from modern crime unfortunately, but also from modern warfare. Occasionally someone gets what seems to be a fairly superficial wound and just dies, sometimes from shock, sometimes from internal bleeding. Various different factors can be involved, and sometimes you can be unlucky and you can get stabbed once and it hits you in the heart, and other people sometimes get stabbed many times and none of them really hit anything vital and they survive, so long as they get medical treatment and don't bleed out. And here's an example of someone who got a pretty horrific wound but carried on being a, shall we say, useful member of his fighting unit. Captain Leith, who was of the 1st Bombay Fusiliers, so he was an infantry officer. Captain Leith was the first man who appeared on the summit of the wall, and this was at the storming of Multan in 1849. And a tremendous sword cut lopped off his arm, it was his left arm, and grazed his side. So he's had an entire arm chopped off and a wound into the side of his body. But it failed to bring him to the ground. And with his long heavy sword, he cleaved the skulls of a couple of Sikhs who were assailing him. He was then rescued by his men. So there we have a guy who lost an arm, was grazed in the side, killed not just one opponent but at least 2 opponents, and then was rescued by his men. And as far as I'm aware, survived the incident. Was presumably the wound was cauterized, he was medically treated. Undoubtedly he was no longer in the military because he's only got one arm, but he would have had a pension of some kind. So there you go. It is possible for people to sustain large wounds and carry on fighting, at least for a short amount of time. And there's a good example from history. And that, incidentally, was recounted by George Buist, I think his name is, in the Annals of India in 1849. And I believe it's talking about one of the Sikh wars in the 1840s. Cheers.